Can you hear us?
Okay. Messing with my head. No. How about now? Oh my gosh. This is a mess.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
KK can hear us.
KK, you got us? Okay, Robbie, can you hear us? Yay. Okay, look. Okay, great, good. Good.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, you guys.
I'm not sure what that was.
Mike was right. They had plenty of time to prepare. Maybe we shouldn't do that.
I know. See, that's why I didn't do it before, because, they would give us audio problems. They would screw with us. Yeah.
Oh, good. There's Wayne. There's Here on Earth. Great to see you. Vildan Atman. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it looks like everything is fine. Like, when you look at the microphone, I'm burying the mic. So, it can't go any higher than this. It'll just be static. It is on full blast. So, it's as high as it could go. Hope you guys could hear.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there with us, dreaming in Puerto Rico. Appreciate it. And all of our mods, you guys, thank you so much for coming in and saying hi. Got some fun stuff today, some stuff to unfold and look at. It's just kind of a reference point. It's like, where are we in this thing of, we know that they exist. I mean, we know that they exist, but like, to what extent? Where are we in the Bronze Age as far as, figuring everything out, or having the masses figure everything out? Because I think that's kind of what we're all waiting for. We're kind of like, okay, it's like, we know, but that's it. It's like one person per every 3 families that understand this, and we need it to be more like across the board. So where are we with that?
So, the title here is all about governments exposed for their secret ultra-terrestrial connections. And you could look up the phrase kingship given from on high. The concept of kingship given from on high is a central theme in religious and historical contexts, signifying divine authority and sovereignty. Yes, again, it's said that kingship was given to us by these beings. Well, was beings in the plural, Elohim. And then, is in the context of the Bible, it was basically the understanding of multiple beings was wiped out and unified into just being one being, as they basically created monotheism. And again, Bible scholars know this. They understand this. When you really look at the text, you understand that it comes from the plural understanding in the oldest original texts. So when you see things like, thou shalt have no alien gods before me, and literally some translations, thou shalt have no other alien gods instead of me. Minor details. Who are they talking about? Now, it's this ultra-terrestrial, because again, we use the word ultra-terrestrial. It includes beings that, maybe they didn't originally come from Earth, or maybe they did. Maybe they were born here, but maybe, again, their ancestors came from the stars, some other planetary system. Maybe they have resided in the inner Earth for eons, tens of thousands of years, maybe more. Or also live under the sea, as we haven't mapped every little corner in the ocean. Not even close. Not even close. So I always thought these things were absolutely curious, to say the least. Thou shalt not have alien gods before me. And of course, I've spent time looking at all the different translations, going back to when I was like 15 and 16 years old, saying, wait a minute, alien gods, what the bleep are they admitting to? Well, kingship comes from on high. You won't have any other alien gods but me. And again, we've talked about the fact that Plato, in his works, has given much more detail than you find in the Bible when it comes to, the fact that these beings walked among us. all the religious texts talk about the sky people. The people that came from somewhere out there, landed on the ground, and took things over, and then set up their system. They set up their economic system. They set up their religious systems, and the political system as well. And at some point they left, but they left their people in charge. And how long have they been gone? Have they really been gone? Have they been just watching from the shadows? Are they still here? Are they still under our feet or over our heads in motherships that are cloaked? That's the big question. And then we got the Anunnaki and the reptilians. Fallen angels, again. What's the original interpretation of an angel? It's a messenger. It's a messenger. Also a non-physical being. So what are we talking about, really? And are the Anunnaki and the reptilians at war with each other, or are they buddies? Well, again, there's a lot of clues in the Bible, in reality.
Well, I think it's a matter of reading the ancient scriptures with different lenses on, instead of having, being attached to a certain belief and understanding, just kind of opening those doors up a little bit and reading it for, with different lenses, like technology, like AI, put those lenses on and see what you see.
Vildan, yes. He says, please research about the Tartar nation. I'm one belonging to that nation. I guarantee you I have hundreds of hours into Tartaria, maybe more, so it is a fascinating subject to me. I love it. I gobble it up. And, that's one of the subjects that I'll watch other people's material and see if we could glean more info. And then I'm always trying to get stuff from the guides on Tartaria. I don't think we have the exact picture on it. I really, really don't. I think there's something so fundamental that we're missing in our understanding, because it appears that Tartaria didn't end until recently. And yet, what was it? Was it some from Atlantis that basically tried to keep the higher technology going that they had in Atlantis? Some of the survivors coming together in groups and, building a civilization with high technology. And then is it that the true overlords, those ancient gods, those other gods, etc., shut it down? Did they shut down Tartaria? What exactly was Tartaria in reality? Because it does seem like they had a different way of doing things. Again, just the free energy component, just the spires, just the understanding of frequency and the importance of frequencies. When you look to what was done with modern music and just the simple little thing of taking 440 and making that what you would tune middle C to, instead of 432, why would you tune something off so it's less harmonious? Unless you're trying to create discord, tension, strife, trying to lower immune system response, trying to lower the consciousness of people, trying to manipulate them into fighting amongst themselves, being more irritated, where many people are learning that certain frequencies, just simply going to bed with frequency music in the background, can be very beneficial. I think that was something that Tartaria understood, and they did their best to wipe out the knowledge that we had with Tartaria.
I think the frequency is so important. Like our dearest Sita, we have her bedtime sleepy music on, and it really makes a difference for her. I mean, she sleeps so well.
Yeah, and there are people that to this day are called Tartars, and it's a small little, well, not really small, but again, it's a part of Russia. And yet, I don't think that was it. I think it was much bigger than that. I think it was way bigger. But, again, the political systems, all these different systems that are in place, who brought them about? Was it a combination of the Anunnaki and the reptilians, those, beings that we can look at as fallen angels, fallen messengers from the stars? Was it their puppets doing things? I mean, are their puppets, the ones that they left in charge, kind of running the show? Yeah, while the cat's away, the mice will play. Is that's what's been going on Earth? Again, it is said in Plato and Critias, and also there's some interesting info in Timaeus as well, that they did leave. The gods left. You remember the days when the gods walked amongst us, and then the gods left. Fascinating. Cindy is going to be doing some remote viewing. We've done this before, looking at some of the Olympian gods, for instance. Very real beings. Very real beings. And they weren't really, they're a lot like our political leaders today. They have a lot of faults. They are not ideal beings by any way, shape, or form. They're not necessarily completely out and out demonic, and they're very human with their failings. And again, that's perhaps part of where we get a lot of our failings from, is inheriting their DNA that they've implanted into us.
Well, I think that they are kind of very, very rotten in many ways, with their jealousy and their rage and their desires, and talk about weakness of the flesh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm with Mike. I think we got a lot of our 7 deadly sins from them, but it's our choice, because we have both aspects of that. And we can, just like those other beings, we can be different too, if we choose to.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, I'd like to see that map. Phil Down was saying not so long ago, Putin gifted a map of Tartaria to the leader of Tatarstan. I would love to see that map too. Which map is that? That would be very, very fascinating to check out and look into. When we look at this again, as Susan said it's going to take us some time, Susan Donahue, it's going to take us some time to shed our conditioning. That's true. We really are. And we're in that part right now where we're learning to shed our indoctrination. You recognize, we don't even realize that what's done to kids, that there's anything wrong with it, that you got to go to school, be ripped away from your families, and, spend half the waking day, if not more, away from them, in this environment where a history and other things are pounded into your mind. And when we realize that history is not actually accurate, then isn't it pretty obvious that it's just simply indoctrination? It's brainwashing is what they do in public schools. Can it help you succeed? Yeah, in the system that's given to us from these beings who, they might have come out of the sky, but they're not high frequency. That's for sure.
I don't know. I did really horrible in school. I had such a hard time in school. And later in life, I found out I was dyslexic, and I didn't know that. But, even if you look at school now, I homeschooled my children, and I was right there to tell them that, look, you don't want to sweat this stuff, because next year it's going to be rewritten and it's going to be different.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big question. How well did the Anunnaki and the reptilians get along? Now, when you look to Plato, and you see it in Deuteronomy 32, specifically 32:8, also it's in Psalms 82, we see that these beings from elsewhere divvied up the tribes of humans. They literally divided us into their little armies to go fight each other all the time, to wage war against each other. This is the main thing that humanity has to deal with, and recognize that we've been manipulated by these beings. We've been manipulated and tricked into fighting ourselves, so that we don't really recognize what's going on in the bigger picture. Satan, where is Satan? Oh, well, he's got his pitchfork, glowing red eyes, sometimes horns. And, he's thought to be in a hot place inside the earth. Well, reptilians. We have reptilian cities inside the earth. How about Dulce, New Mexico? All the deep underground military bases. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you start looking at it from this aspect, all the pieces fit. When I was 16 and I was like literally copying by hand the book of Enoch and other books from the Bible, mostly prophecy related, and book of Joel and Day of the Lord, all of a sudden a light bulb went out in my head and I said, holy bleep, it's aliens.
I know, and for me it was kind of similar. As soon as I understood what they were talking about, all those years I didn't look at it through that lens, but when I did, I kind of went through this, I don't know, I was a little bit angry, I guess. I was very, very angry because I felt I was lied to, after I could see things through that different lens. And then you spend some time sitting there and then you get over it. And then you think, well, gosh, I really miss the community aspect of everything. I wish I could go back. And then maybe you try to go back, but you can't because people are still there and you're not. So there's like a mismatch in frequency. So it makes you, kind of puts you in a difficult place in the world once you see it. You can't unsee it.
Yeah, so Scruffy says, Bible's a good read, but where's the rest of it? Well, read the Nag Hammadi and read the pseudepigraphal texts. And I'm not sure I'd spelled that right. It has a P, an S in it, and a U in there. Pseudepigraphal is everything that's basically not in the Bible, nothing that was not canonized. And so there's many of them. And the Nag Hammadi, again, it's going back to this boy that just stumbled on some clay jars that happened to have these documents in them showing that there was like 200 gospels, over 200 gospels they hand selected for. And again, everything has been revised over time as well. And so, yeah, that's where we find the rest of the texts. And those Gnostic, quote-unquote, texts that were omitted go into a lot more detail and talk all about the wars between the light and the darkness. Yes. Very interesting. When we start looking, man, this is just, it's almost ridiculous. This looks like kind of a lizard bird being wearing clothes. That's ridiculous, isn't it? This again is from Japan, but almost exactly identical statues to this have been found in other parts of the world. But this was found in Japan. Clearly, this is some sort of either bird or reptilian being. Now, it's interesting too, because you're probably familiar with those humanoid bird beings that are, all over the Sumerian texts and interacting with humans. Again, there's different types of Anunnaki. That term in and of itself is, again, just referring to the beings that came from above to Earth. But when you look at this, clearly this is some sort of humanoid being, definitely not human, but it's wearing clothes. It's even holding its hands together. And this is thousands of years old, these statues. So, this kind of gives you a clue when we're looking at these things. And Exodus, no other gods, just me, right? You're not going to serve any of those other ones because you're the tribe given to me. No carved gods of any size, shape, or form. In other words, anything that you see flying about in the air or walking amongst you or swimming in the water, you don't bow down to them, don't make images of them, because they don't want us to know what they were talking about. Hello?
Well, I think it's that, and I think part of it is those images carry a certain vibration and they can carry power.
Yeah, and Robbie's noticing more details. What are these? I don't know. I mean, it could be that they were something for holding things. Maybe they were some sort of shielding. Maybe this is shielding, a breastplate of some sort. Hard to say, what are the little mani purses the Anunnaki are carrying around? Is it a breathing apparatus? What is it? Is it some sort of mechanism to, guide them back to their ship, or remote control for their ship? When you look at it, when we see all these statues all around the world that show oddly reptilian, or sometimes avian, and sometimes just plain old weird humanoid beings. Again, 2 legs, 2 arms, the same star pattern that man is after. Think the Da Vinci, with the human out in that star pattern. This is the form of life that's abundant in all around the multiverse, because it just is perhaps one of those shapes that makes a lot of sense.
I think so. I mean, it's all very creepy. It's been out for a very long time, and it should have saturated our society by now, but still people look away from it.
Yeah, he does look like a snapping turtle. Yeah, absolutely. But we see these all over, so it makes it very easy to understand why we shouldn't have any graven images. How about these? Nomoli figurines from Sierra Leone in Africa. Now, this area, by the way, happens to have a legend of 2 reptilian brothers that came from the sky, and it says that they took over everything and they split up. Again, it's echoing the same story. They're splitting up the tribes, taking ownership over different sections of the earth, or at least our section of the earth. And clearly, they're depicted and also spoken of as reptilian humanoid beings. Reptilian humanoid beings. The word Nomoli is really curious too, because it's so much similar to Nomo. Nomo, again, that's the figure Oans, or Dagon, again, from the Philistines and the Sea Peoples. Well, who were the Sea Peoples? I think they were, again, Atlantean survivors is who we're talking about. That's who the Sea People are. And, why we have such phonetically similar words here, Nomoli and Nomo. Now, the Nomo, are shown as fish humanoid beings, fishmen, so to speak. I think there's a lot of different entities. That's the thing. It's not just demons and angels, and that's it. No, I mean, there's so many different beings in play here. There's actually, I think, a lot of different civilizations that we're talking about when we talk about the beings that have divvied up our section of the earth. I think we're talking about a lot of different beings, a lot of different civilizations are represented.
Several, just like we have species here on Earth, we have all kinds of different insects, different types of birds, dogs, different types of humans. I don't believe that these were any different at all. In fact, I believe it was far more vast than what we have now.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Daryl was saying, Dagon tribe and Dogon tribe, yeah, that's so similar to itself. I mean, just think about what that says. The Dogon tribe, the tribe that is owned by Dogon, or Dagon. Again, this ownership thing, it keeps coming back. Nomoli, figurines of ancient astronauts left by a mysterious culture. Well, what's interesting is these things are estimated to be 12,000 years old. Some say they're even as old as 18,000 years old. But 12,000 seems to be the agreed upon aging. Hey, doesn't this look like Baraka? Did anybody know Mortal Kombat? Remember the Baraka entity thing? No. I think, again, let me pull it up just because this is how it's in our memory banks. It's in our DNA banks. We see certain figures. We see certain myths brought back to life, and it's just so damn familiar. It's like, wait, I know this. I know this being.
Always that DNA memory doing its thing every time we watch a movie or Star Wars or anything that brings us out to the cosmos or the divine energy that surrounds us. Whenever we see something, tantalizes that DNA and it helps us remember more. But yeah, this guy's pretty creepy, not divine.
No, so, Baraka, right? You guys remember Baraka? Yeah, so look at Baraka, and then we look at those Namoli beings. I could see a resemblance. I could see a family resemblance, don't you think? Yeah, it's kind of similar. So I think in some ways, like when the Marvel comics and stuff, when they give us these things, they bring them back. And actually, there's even the Chitauri. The Chitauri. Well, Baraka, to me, I could see that Baraka would be inspired on this, or a being that was like that.
Yeah, it looks to me, I can see it for sure.
Then we have the Chitauri. And, the Chitauri are in the Marvel Comics universe. And they're also reptilian. Okay, so, yeah, Chitauri. They're fictional in the Marvel Comics, right? Look at their weapons. Look at their faces. It's because this is real. And I do think it is real because the Chitauri, it was an invasion too. The Chitauri aliens. Now, this is all Marvel Comics, and when they do this, you can see, it's nothing but Marvel Comics. Well, that's because that's all they want you to know. Because if you look at the myth and the legends, they're a figure in African mythology. The Zulu, as recounted by Credo Mutwa, who David Icke interviewed like 30 years ago. They're also known as the Talkers, reptilian ancient alien beings that arrived on Earth to mine gold in southern Africa. This is those Enlil and Enkyites. Yes, absolutely. Towering reptilian creatures with varying physical forms, including those with horns, like the devil or Baphomet, wings and tails, right, just like what we see in Underworld, again, with, the vampires, or what we take to be vampires. Again, it's because, the legends and the myths were based on truth and reality.
The legends and the myths and everything else, and the black goo is really something not good. I agree, Diana.
So the Chitauri legend, often compared to ancient astronaut theory of Anunnaki from Sumerian mythology, as both involve extraterrestrial beings who influenced human behavior and development and exploited humanity for labor. Story also bears similarities to biblical narratives, particularly the introduction of language as a means of division amongst the people. So that same story exists in Africa when we're talking about the Chitauri. So, they manipulated human society by fostering conflict, fear, and greed. Even altered the Earth's atmosphere to reveal the stars, promoting the idea of a divine being from the heavens. I don't think we've never seen the real view. I think that we've always had Project Bluebeam in effect. And I think if we were to see what it really looks like outside of the dome, so to speak, it would be mind-blowing because it's not really, I don't think it's dark out there. Cindy has also gotten that it's actually very, very bright. There's a lot of colors out there. It's very different. So, you could see how this all ties together. Interesting to note how the word Namoli has an assonance with Nomo, or how, again, with West Africa, the Dogon of Mali call the beings who in a distant past, according to certain myths, reigned on the earth from the star Sirius. An African legend says that they wandered without hindrance in places where no man has ever been before. One could not look at them in the face because their eyes were so bright they caused blindness. And those who looked at them, it was like looking at the sun. These creatures were banned from entering the divine empire and were sent to earth. Wow, so it's like Satan being thrown down on the earth. Yeah, well, I guess Satan doesn't want his representation being out.
No, and and Wayne said, everything they told us is false, and it is false to such a high degree, but they embed it into children's cartoons, video games, movies. They tell the truth without us even thinking for a second that it's really real, not until you wake up and then you start to realize how real it is. But from cradle to grave, everything that we have been taught, told, grilled into our minds is untrue. So I think people are at the point where they believe, well, what is true? I hear so many different points of view. You take one given subject, just one, and you're going to have 15 different points of view on it. And that just brings me back around to, boy, oh boy, we better drill into our discernment and get it figured out, or you're going to get jerked around out there in this whirlwind of information. It's just crazy.
So, forgotten history here is correlating Plato's timeline, placing Atlantis collapsing about 11,600 years ago, which coincides perfectly with the Younger Dryas extinction event and the massive sea level jump. And also, what we can correlate this with is, what do we see? We saw those figurines arrive at the same time. So this is what I've been feeling, is that the Younger Dryas extinction event was an act of war. It wasn't a natural cycle like many people think. It was literally an act of war, a first attacking of us and this planet.
And thank you so much, Susan Donahue. We appreciate that a lot. It helps keep us going so we can get together and do this with you guys continually. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, there is an Anunnaki reptilian theory. And, the question is, how much are they at war with each other? Because when you look to the Bible, in the book of Job even, you have God, and I think that's representing the whole group, the collective of the Anunnaki. And then you have Satan as the reptilians. And, literally we're told that this is Satan's realm. Satan's right under your feet, literally dwelling in the deep underground bases that are connected to our military, which makes perfect sense when you think about it too. So, you have these two groups that came to some sort of truce, but it's not always a truce that lasts. Again, we had that event that happened, 1565, I think it was, where it literally was like Star Wars in the sky over Nuremberg. There was drones, there were ships, they were battling and destroying each other. Was it a flare-up between the Anunnaki and the reptilians? Or was it maybe some other group? I think, again, there's a lot at play here. So is it really that it's more like the Anunnaki versus the reptilians? Or are they actually working together? Well, I think, again, there's uneasy truces. There's no honor amongst thieves. And when you get down to it, all these beings are not benevolent beings. How about, who is really in charge? Is it the Alpha Draconis beings, the Dracos? They appear to be about as powerful as you can go as far as the Negative Alliance. And they are, from our understanding, basically a slave now to the AI that they created.
And thank you so much, KK, again. We really appreciate the support. And you can, do coffees over on Ko-Fi or join us over on Patreon, where we have a lot more. We put out stuff on Patreon that we just simply don't feel safe saying on YT for the most part. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. It's just, again, this is why the politicians act the way they do, because they're only doing what they're told.
They're one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And And they are overshadowed. They are overshadowed. That's the other aspect. I mean, meaning that the politicians, even if they wanted to go against, sometimes they can't. They just can't. Either they'll get killed or they physically won't be able to.
Well, I believe this has been going on for so long, because even if you kind of, when I view the other ages, I can see that these beings, they're overshadowing other beings, like on this level, on this 3D level. So I think this is just kind of common. They're overshadowing, and that's what they do, and we just roll with everything. And times might change. The overshadowing might go dark into the dark Kali Yuga, but then in the Silver Age and the Golden Age, the overshadowing can be different.
President George H.W. Bush, again, who was very high in the government before he became president. He was obviously the VP to Reagan, but then he was also in charge of the CIA. Yeah. And also, again, all the Bushes go back another generation. Prescott Bush, senator from Connecticut. They're all three of them went through the Skull and Bones in Society in Yale. Yeah, they're carrying out, again, their master's wishes. Well, here you go. He knew of 1964 alien contact with humans in New Mexico. So says the documentary. Eric Davis, an astrophysicist who was a scientific advisor on the since disbanded Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program created by Congress in 2007 by Senator Harry Reid, claimed Bush had confirmed to him in a private conversation details of contact between the military and an alien creature at Holloman Air Force Base in Otero County. Bush told him that 3 spaceships were seen approaching the base and that interstellar being emerged from one of the ships and had a face-to-face encounter with the military and the CIA. Davis said during an interview in the Age of Disclosure documentary by filmmaker Dan Farah that went live on Amazon Prime on Friday. One of them landed on the tarmac, and a non-human entity deboarded the craft and landed and interacted with uniformed Air Force and civilian CIA personnel. When Bush asked for more details, he was told he did not have a need to know. Yeah, again, because they're nothing really but puppets. So, again, when we see all the stuff going on in Washington, it's for the most part to keep the humans occupied and to give them a plausible scenario for what's happening.
Right. I was just reading through the comments. Scruffy said, I would assume a superior species has to control a sector. Otherwise, another less hospitable species takes the reins. That's what I see. It's like I see, but I see it rotating also. So I think there's a different superior species depending on the yuga that we're in. And it's just very difficult for me to explain what I see. I have to have Mike sit down and tease it out of me, because the words, I don't always have the right words. I can see what's going on in the upper realms. It's just hard to translate it way down here. But yes, that's a very good point, Scruffy.
Yeah. And Ariel says, I think things are always far more complex than most people are comfortable with.
They are.
Completely. And that's why it's not like the outcome, what's going to happen is written in stone. Because there's all these possible timelines, and there's so many different beings that are, interacting. And at any time, somebody could go rogue and it could kind of fall apart. What we've gotten is that there was some sort of agreement that came done back on the summer solstice. No new agreement was reached, so we're in like a limbo. They're just basically, nobody's doing anything aggressive, but yet there's no new. And I think when you look at this tripartite, tripartite was just popping in my head. And, we're taught the Trinity, right? Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. But I do think in another way, there might be a trinity of powers that came to some sort of agreement over us. I was going to say our section of Earth, but in reality, it's kind of like what to do with the humans, or what they want to do with the humans. So I do think that you have like the Anunnaki, or those that we take as the Anunnaki, or the Nibiruans. And then I think there's the reptilians, who again, they view the Earth as theirs. Before we were here, yes, the dinosaurs did exist. They weren't what we were told. They were cattle and pets and playthings, and for the reptilians. And so at some point they were wiped out, and from what we've gotten, they were wiped out by beings that we would take to be more benevolent to us, in order to pave the ways for us to be here. And I think there's a lot of anger, hatred, and there's a lot of ill will between those two different groups. And then I think you have the benevolent ones, the ones we would call the Galactic Federation, which, they would only appear to us as being really light beings because they are from a higher density. So they would just literally be looking like living light shapes to us for the most part. But there are beings that are more positively aligned with the Galactic Federation that could appear to be physical to us as well.
Well, I believe there's so many of us, like all the light workers that are in here, and Robbie's just cracking jokes left and right. E equals MC2, MC, Mike and Cindy. I get it. I get it, Robbie. Thanks. It's always good for a laugh. Thank you, Robbie. But, I think like all of us, we have some connection to a higher realm, or we wouldn't have the understanding that we do. And some people choose to follow the light, and let's go with this. Some people, I like to use a different word because I don't think that light and dark are good and bad. I don't like good and bad. I like polarity. I like the understanding that it takes both to make things go. And some people like to dance at the darkness. Some people like to dance in the light, and that's their prerogative. Neither one is like the ultimate good or bad. But I do believe that a lot of us do stand in the light, and we have we can reach up and we can grasp that higher realm, and we can see it and understand it. And that's why there's so few of us. Like I said, I think there's one in about every 2 to 3 families that really, really gets it. And then you guys all in this room, you guys really understand. I mean, you understand a lot. I learn a lot from you guys when we come in here, and I read the comments, and I ponder, and I think, and I relate, and I connect. And that's what we're doing here. And with our energy together, it really, really helps.
So, yes, and there's been many retrievals of different alien bodies and different crashes. Once in Russia, 1988, wreckage of a large tic-tac shaped UAP. They pulled bodies from there. Hal Puthoff, a former AATIP member, quantum physicist, longtime disclosure advocate, claimed there were several different types of ETs. Yes, absolutely. And this is the reality. We're in the middle of this. It's a ultra-terrestrial battle going on, and it's really a interdimensional, galactic, interplanetary battle. And this is also partly why it's the focus is always military, because these beings have been at war with each other a long time. And, at some point, there's truces. Sometimes they might last maybe 100 years or 1,000 years. And then it's back into everything being, like Star Wars type of battles again. But we have had instances multiple times of these type of advanced aircraft, starship type of warfare that has been observed by humans and noted at different points in time from all over the world.
Yeah, and I like how Susan puts it. There is no good, only enlightened. There is no bad, only the sorry, and the fearful. Yeah, I don't like looking at good and bad. I know we need both. If you don't have a really bad day and if you don't tumble in life, you don't know what it feels like to be standing on cloud nine. You don't know how good it feels to get that raise that you've been looking for. You don't know how good it is to get that job that you've been longing for until you've been on the ground, like needing money and ready to just, throw your hands in the air and say, I give up, uncle. So we need both to have our full expression of human beings. I don't see bad in anything because I've been on both ends of the spectrum, and my gosh, am I grateful for the darkness because it's led me here.
Well, again, this is a temporary human experience. You are already an eternal being. You are eternal consciousness. And so we do have a physical body at this point in time. We have many different layers to our energy body. So you could view that as being many energy bodies in which we can operate on different dimensions. Again, what Yeshua was trying to do was trying to teach us how to cultivate the Christ within. And Christ, again, means anointed. And it's anointing, again, with, in our case, cerebral spinal fluid and activating your pineal gland so that your reality changes and you could see energy, where you could, again, be restored to pre-Tower of Babel, which, in what they're talking about there, is when humans had their ability to communicate psychically, and all these quote-unquote paranormal gifts that was just part of being human, and we're going back to that. Our DNA is being activated. So it's not really a mystery, the DNA was deactivated. We can see it. Scientists will call it junk DNA sometimes. It's not junk, it's just dormant. It's been made dormant by, again, these ultra-terrestrials that, again, view us, in many cases, they view us as just something like a herd, a resource. But not all. Again, the benevolent beings, the ones that we would, again, call the Galactic Federation, there's many different groups that make that up. Those beings, they want to see us develop on our own timeline. And as Cindy had gotten, there was an agreement in place to leave humans alone, or at least let them think that they're alone so they could develop, at their own pace. But at the same time, what happened? You have a group controlling us, giving us dogmatic religions and political systems and a military mindset that keeps us at war with ourselves.
Yeah, we have a sin nature, which is evil in our flesh and bodies. Duh. Well, if you're just born out of the womb and the first thing you're told is that you're nothing but sin, I think that kind of sets you up for, feeling bad about yourself. And I just don't think that's the right way to go about things. I think we should, if you look at the tribes, if you looked at the indigenous, they would look at their children and they would sit back and they would watch them and they would see what they're good at, and they would just constantly just praise that, and they would build upon it. So by the time this little child who is so good at hunting or tracking, by the time they're 18 or 20, they are filled with pride about what they do, and they're absolute experts. So that's kind of how I feel we should really treat our children today, instead of saying, you're made of sin. I don't think that's the way to bring people up. It hasn't been helpful. I'm just looking at the past.
Yeah, that's traumatic abuse. The whole concept of original sin is nothing but psychological manipulation. It's a gaslighting. It's a form of psychological manipulation and emotional abuse where one person systematically undermines another's perception of reality. In this case, this is the beings that we would again take as the ultra-terrestrials, the Anunnaki, the reptilians, that are undermining humans' perception of reality, causing humans to doubt their own memories, judgments, and sanity. It typically involves a pattern of behavior over time, like denying events, blaming the victim for their own actions, like when God sends a plague, but then blames us because we sinned. They released the plague, or they brought war from one tribe on another because we disobeyed, again, the slave master. So, that's more indoctrination that needs to be worked through, because this is brutal psychological manipulation. And what's the desired effect? It's to bring about low self-esteem and a diminished sense of self, so you'll be a good little slave. This is really important to, again, get across. This is one of the big hurdles that humanity has to get past. Duh.
And what I really believe is that all belief systems have something very, very good to offer. They truly do. I mean, Mike has really gone through them. I have grazed through them. I'm dyslexic and I don't read very well, but I have done my studying and I looked at a lot of them, Buddhism, Hinduism, all the things. Shamanism, I tend to favor in shamanism. I tend to excel in shamanism. And I feel I can really, really help people. All the religions of the world, they have something good to offer. And I take what works for me and I hold on to that. And I just leave the rest, because the rest is for someone else to walk that path. And that's okay, because I had to go through all the things to get to where I am now. And I had to go through all the belief systems that were given to get to where I'm at now, where I can kind of rise above it and I can look at them all and I say, wow, this is a really amazing world that we have all of this to choose from.
But as far as that sim nature, there is something probably to the fact that there is in our DNA we have a reptilian brainstem, so we do know that we have DNA from many different lineages. So yeah, it's just, what are you going to feed also? Do you want, it's a two wolf story again from what's given as Native American legend. Yeah, we can overcome our DNA. We really can. That's just epigenetics. You can overcome your DNA. That's a huge thing. We could rewrite our DNA because we can rewrite it, because we exist also on a higher density. And everything is manifested from the higher densities downwards. It's not bottom up, it's top down. So we could change our own DNA.
On my journey, I learned when it comes to DNA memory that until you get a hold of it, it's so important to know what your family has gone through, what your mother and father and grandparents have gone through, because your DNA is copying that. It's putting it in your body, and you're destined to go down that road unless you do the healing that they never did. And the healing, what I love about it is that ancestral river. When you heal that I learned how to do that through biofield tuning. You can heal that ancestral river. It puts you in charge of healing that whole line, forwards and backwards. So you're healing not just yourself, you're healing your ancestors, you're healing your children, you're healing your grandchildren. When you take it on yourself and say, no, I'm not going to let my DNA just drive blind. And I learned that probably the hardest way possible. I didn't even realize that that's how DNA did its dirty work through you until it was, well, now I have to heal the whole ancestral line, and I'm gonna, because I don't want my kids and grandkids going through that.
So yes, the real truth that Yeshua was sharing is that the kingdom of heaven lies within us. It's not in dogma. That's the real truth. Also, the fact that greater things we can do than he even did here, because he was here during the dark part of the Kali Yuga. And we're at a point where we are awakening, and we are going to, again, go to all new levels, all new heights. We're going to regain so much that was lost. He also was giving you truth when he told you to develop your pineal gland. Let the light of thine eye be single, and the whole body will be full of light. So prioritize going within, because that's where the kingdom of heaven is. Develop your pineal gland, be careful about what you take into your temple. Whether it's, you don't want fluoridated water, you don't want GMO food, you don't want low vibrational food, you don't want low vibrational things in general. So be very, very mindful and careful of all those things. And yes, those are the real truths of Yeshua. And we can do even more than he did. That's what he said. So here you have also, obviously, the famous Eisenhower alien meetings. Again, this is with Here you're seeing some grays. But yeah, the tall whites. So you have the tall whites, you have the Pleiadians. They're different, or what we would typically take as Pleiadians. There's grays, and then there's the tall grays. There's physical grays. There's really nothing but robotic grays. There's also many, many grays that are a combination. Like when we just saw with those bodies from Paracas area of Peru, that they had metal implanted in them. They had metallic implants in them. That is such a big, big clue to everything that is going on around us. There are these beings that want us merged with the Borg. They want to get us to, again, be chipped. They want us to replace organs, with other ones, mechanical perhaps, or from cloned beings. Again, they want us to follow their path and become just like them, which, of course, we want to rise above that, and we want to emulate more of the beings that we're encountering when we're in a golden age or a silver age. But when you look at this, remember Majestic 12, and you have Eisenhower and these top secret meetings. Again, back in the 40s, you had the UFOs buzzing Washington. We had the Battle of Los Angeles. Also, we had Admiral Byrd going down to Antarctica and having to retreat with his tail between his legs, with the Nazis with the saucers. So I think that's another little clue, that there are these different groups within this dark alliance that do fight amongst themselves on a regular basis. And so, we have this extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial influence, and it can change from time to time. And even presidency to presidency, you could have them leaning one way or another. And, that's what I've been feeling into personally when I'm looking at, you say 47 going up against, or appearing to go up against the establishment, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, EU, etc. Is he, being backed by some other groups, and coming clean on so much? And now you have RFK Jr. sharing that so much that we all knew was not good, isn't good, and we didn't do it anyway, and we wouldn't go down certain routes anyway when it comes to health and things like that, choices. I do think, again, there's a lot of different beings in play here. But if we had to break it down into a simple grouping of three, I do think you have those we call the Anunnaki, those that we call the reptilians. And again, the Anunnaki themselves in many cases are, at least, some of them are partially reptilian. There are many different species. And then we also have the other third, which we would view as the more benevolent Galactic Federation type beings, which there's some avians that have been very helpful to humanity, literally been helping to maintain balance in a big way, also by mitigating some harmful effects of the sun giving too much energy off too quickly. And then, of course, we have Gates and that whole crew that wants to block the sunlight totally from the Earth, because, again, they are kind of creatures of the dark themselves, and they don't want our DNA awakening because they'll lose their investment. And we know how much they're all about their investments now.
Oh, but first let's put up solar panels and then block the sun.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Not. Yeah, so Eisenhower and his meetings. How about Eisenhower went missing suddenly the evening of February 20th, 1954. There were rumors and fears quickly circulating he might have died, to which the official response was the president had to undergo emergency dental work, was recovering well. In reality, the president had been whisked off to an emergency meeting with an alien race said to be from the Pleiades star cluster, often referred to as the Nordics due to their blue eyes, blonde hair, pale skin. The meeting was said to take place at Edwards Air Force Base in an empty hangar. Although the exact details of the talks were not fully known, it appears the Nordics were offering help with technology medical procedures and advancement, and a break away from fossil fuels for clean energy. However, a deal was not reached and the meeting was abandoned. According to the story, this is when a second alien race made contact with Eisenhower and the leaders of the United States. Unlike the Nordics, the Greys managed to make a deal with the president, an abundance of technology given only to the United States in return for access to members of the population. Essentially, the Greys have been given permission to abduct and experiment on citizens of the country before wiping out their memories and returning them unharmed. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Some say that Eisenhower was forced to making the deal and point to the Cold War and the perceived ever-present threat of the Soviet Union. Assuming the story of the contact is true, where the Greys have given this technology to the Russians and tipped the balance of the world power to them if the U.S. would not agree. So, yeah, that's very, very interesting for sure. Because, again, when you take that whole concept of chosen people and the chosen people of, obviously, Abraham, and then you have the lineage that comes out of that in Israel, again, Jacob becoming Israel and the chosen people. And when it says, in Deuteronomy 32, you are my tribe. Remember when the Most High divvied up the earth, you're mine, is what he said. And so right there, the way it is even written, it's obvious that Yahweh is not the Most High, because that's two separate beings. Again, Paul Davids, I think that's his name, that has done a lot of interviews with Mauro Bellino, the Vatican translator, has gone into great detail on this. And El Elyon, again, Elon is an abbreviation of El Elyon. It's like right in our face, kind of like laughing at us, trying to make it out that Elon is the God Most High, right? Or of that lineage, or of that particular grouping, because they do kind of go after each other at times.
And I think for some people that, yes, their particular entity, that's their number one, and that's okay. And for me, I'm the one down here in the driver's seat, so I'm the one that matters, but I definitely consult the guides, when needed, as needed. And then if I need more clarification from my guides, I ask for it. I just say, I don't have enough information here to make a decision, and I don't know fully exactly what you said, so give me more confirmation on the decision I'm about to make. And we can have these candid conversations with our guides anytime. And just each individual person, has that right and that ability to contact the being of a higher nature, for themselves. So that's how I see it.
So when you look at this right here, this is a dead giveaway that this is plural, because this is saying when El Elyon gave the nations their inheritance and divided the sons of man, according to the sons of God, or the sons of the gods, that's showing that's one being that did the dividing. And then when it's over here, the Lord, that's actually Yahweh. So, but Yahweh's portion is his people. So again, that one tribe is his. And that's why, they are that particular Elohim's chosen people. And, in effect, again, when we look at it, there's more to it than that. There's even a little bit more to it than that. So 1954 Greada Treaty. The Eisenhower administration bypassed the U.S. Constitution and formed a pact with alien races. There you go.
Oh my gosh, and imagine that. And I like these names, running the gauntlet. Great to see you too. I'm glad you're here. Sometimes I feel that way as well. So it's good to see everybody. We had a really nice turnout tonight. A lot of different points of view, a lot of different beliefs. And I like to see that. Keep throwing it around. This is what we came here to do.
And don't forget, Dulce, New Mexico, and the famous Battle of Dulce. Phil Schneider he was taken from the world early. Was it because he knew too much and was talking too much? It's so easy to say yes. I think that's the case. I really feel so bad for Phil. I really do. And, he talked about the Battle of Dulce. It's a little town right on the Colorado-New Mexico border. And by the way, there is a hum there. People hear the hum. Look at the little sign with the UFO. Isn't that cute? So it was a famous battle. Phil Schneider, an explosive engineer that worked for the U.S. government with high-level security clearance, claimed that in 1979 he participated in the building of a secret underground base in Dulce, New Mexico. It was here that a horrific battle played out, leaving 60 humans dead and countless subterranean aliens fighting for their life. Yeah, this was the Greys. And, Schneider asserts that he was suspicious of the engineering operation when he noticed the presence of Green Berets and Special Forces. His fears were realized after drilling underground. He came face to face with a 7-foot-tall, stinky gray alien. I've come face to face with one that was, I thought it was probably 8 feet tall. In, again, Sarasota, Florida, in December of 2017, I felt something going into my abdomen, and I woke up, and there was a tall gray right over me. And the weirdest thing was, I wasn't afraid. I was actually pissed, and it looked away from me. It was hunched over. It couldn't straighten up totally because it would have gone through the ceiling because it was tall. And it had 3 long fingers. And I want to say that its hand was like from the tip of my middle finger to my elbow. That's how big its hand was. I mean, it was long and thin. And, as tall as it was, proportionately, I would say it might have weighed less than 200 pounds, probably. It wasn't really heavy. It didn't look heavy. But it straightened up, immediately broke eye contact when it saw that I woke up. And then it went into a meditative state, and it was, I swear you, just like Beam Me Up Scotty, I watched it go from looking really solid to becoming an energy pattern, and just a gray energy pattern, and it was gone. And the weirdest thing was, before that, there was one night when I went out into the living room and the back door opened up to the living room and it was wide open. And I was living in not the greatest area in Sarasota. I would not lock the door. Something had opened up the door. And Zeke, who was with me then, wouldn't come out into the living room. And Zeke really had a nose for the paranormal because he stayed clear.
Sita's got that nose now. I mean, we've seen some creepy stuff, and Mike's got to check it out, and Rama's right there with him. Rama is super happy to be right there, but Sita, no. She senses something. She hangs back.
Yeah, absolutely. So Schneider asserts that he was, again, face to face with a 7-foot-tall, stinky gray alien, and he freaked out, grabbed the pistol he was carrying. That's what engineers do. And shot and killed 2 aliens. Another alien shot some laser plasma ball or something, and it blew off some of his fingers. He was saved by a Green Beret who allegedly gave his life for them, and all 60 human people allegedly lost their lives at the human-alien Battle of Dulce. Yeah, there's a war that's been going on, he said, of 1,477 underground bases around the world, 129 located in the U.S. That means there's a ton that are not in the U.S. Each costs $17 billion or more. The black budget, hidden from other U.S. government agencies and from the public, garners 25% of the gross national product. Military forces from multiple countries have been engaged in warfare with aliens. You could see what they're doing is prepping us to join them in like a Star Wars scenario at some time, literally recruiting us to take part in it. And yet we have been under the power of the ones that came here and took us over. It was an alien invasion. They took over. And I again go back in this timeline to, again, that Younger Dryas extinction event being the key event that started this.
You know, I believe that they've got us to do a lot of things like mining. You know, they kind of like, they seem to like their pets to do what they do, you know, and get in there and do the mining and treat people a certain way and be contradictive and be argumentative and, you know, just be really pointed when it comes to certain things. But I don't know. I guess I just seen a lot, been through a lot, and I'm more open now to other people's points of view. I think just knowing that, you know, certain people have their thing. It's like, I want to follow this way. Okay, I want to follow this way. And what Source wanted is to explore. Source wanted to explore itself. So that's why it's so unique that all of us are different. We all came from perfect love. So we came here in many ways. You know, if we were free, I feel we would be experiencing different kinds of love, you know, sticky love, you know, weird love, all kinds of crazy love. But we've kind of gotten hijacked in many ways by these other beings to kind of do their bidding, and they like to have us do what they do.
Yeah. And, you know, again, genetics labs, like, you know, there is one there connected to Los Alamos. So much of what they do is creating different hybrids. There was a famous story that was in very close to where I was living, around Camden, South Carolina, of a reptilian entity that was seen. It was called Lizard Man. Well, you know, you're really close to Fort Jackson, and there are underground facilities there too. And, you know, what we've gotten was, you know, something that escaped from one of those bases underneath. I think that happens a lot. I think some of the dogmen type things that we see, that's what they are. When we see the myths of the centaurs, right? Those are, again, a lot of experiments. How about George H.W. Bush? Again, shape-shifting reptilian. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That family is certainly one of the ones that's completely overshadowed to the point where there really isn't anything left. It's a shell, and you know, again, it's a puppet at the same time, and it's being controlled from fourth density, lower fourth density, the hellish realms. That's where these beings are. They're literally denizens of hell when you really look at it that way. Truly, you know, so you could see why, you know, that whole legend and myth of Satan is pretty accurate for the most part.
Yeah, with the pointy ears and being in the depths of hell and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the eyes. Oh, look at this guy. This is a British Antiques Roadshow, and they're showing the guy in the background. Look at his eyes. Now, I don't know if this was doctored or not, but certainly we've all seen this. We've seen different political figures, political staffers that look like this, people that are in positions like that. Why do we have that? Because these are puppet masters, and the ones we take as being the powerful ones, they're the puppets.
So you can say, oh, well, maybe this was doctored, but do you know how many of these are out there? You know, I thought about that too. Oh, it's doctored, but there's so many clips of beings looking like this. They can't all be possibly doctored. There's something there, I feel.
Prince Philip, of course. You know, again, this is the reality. And yeah, I can't wait till we have this. Just out there in the open for everybody to see. But what they want to do is they want to convince you to go with them. They're going to want to convince people to go with them. Boy, it's a dark trick they've done. It really, really is. And so many people, I don't think they can overcome their indoctrination. It's just so difficult to overcome that indoctrination that began as soon as the doctor slapped you on the butt when you came out of mom.
I don't think that was nice, you know, instant pain. And then we're learning a lot. I've been so blessed to be able to talk to many women who give birth at home, and they do a lot of research about, you know, how it should be done. And I'm not a doctor, and I don't know how to do that, but I've, you know, been reading about some things about the umbilical cord. Like, you really shouldn't cut that thing right away. And and different ways of giving birth and the natural ways and what some of the other things can do to you. Of course, if you need help, you go to a hospital, you get that done. But I really admire the women who have taken a moment and step back if they are able. I mean, I wasn't able, but my daughter and I know some others have been able, and they have learned so much. And it just goes back to everything, so many things we've been taught. It's just a flat out lie from cradle to grave.
Absolutely. When you look at Nefertiti's head, right, the elongated head, the other part in this mix is the beings that came here. They came here from Mars because Mars was so damaged. And many of these beings have that type of cranial formation. And it's because, again, they're humanoid, but they're not exactly us. But at the same time, yeah, I don't think we could even say that now because there's been so much interbreeding that's been done. So, yeah, you have that whole component of beings that were through the debacle that was Mars and the war and everything that happened there. And then all the refugees coming to Earth. This whole thing with migrants and refugees is a galactic thing. It's a galactic thing. And, again, the reptilians view Earth as being theirs. They say they were here first. We own it. And again, you have these wars going on, the Lyran Wars. Many people know about this now. Think about how much has now made its way into the memory banks where people can start to piece things together. Because, again, the Pleiadians, well, they didn't really originate there. They went to the Pleiades because of the destruction of many wars over in the constellation of Lyra. But, this is just part of the big reveal. And Earth, how about Earth compared to the rest of the Pleiades? Well, in some ways, we're part of that group. We're just off on the fringe.
I know. And yeah, Susan Donahue, definitely women have, I call them portals, how the baby, and even if you've gone through C-section, you still come through the women's portal, to come into this planet. So women are very, very special, and they have been very, very repressed. And yes, Dee mentioned something about circumcision. There's that too. So there's a lot of things out there that are not true, and we plan on just kind of uncovering them more and more and more, and going into more of a health and wellness type direction. But keep this too, because I love our connection here. I love the things that we talk about. I love the things that we go over, and I think it's really important that we connect as well.
Well, I think a part of what we were doing was trying to awaken people to the fact that, you can't trust what your governments, any of them, are telling you. You can't trust the medical system. You got to do your own research. And again, we're not doctors, but you need to do your own research. I think, and thank you so much, Terry Lee. Thank you. Much love and appreciation for your support. I think a lot of people know now. So I think now is the time to, we're always going to cover this stuff. This is the stuff that we know inside out.
People to stay because we're doing dings.
Yep. Cindy's going to be doing dings and do some tuning after we finish. But I think what we need to do is just keep giving people what can actually help them. Because once you understand this, then, it's more like, well, what can I do to better myself? How can I, balance myself, mind, body, spirit, and become the best version of myself? And that's always been one of my focuses and drives. I'm a knowledge junkie, but I'm also a go within and sort and feel for yourself. Again, I've meditated since I was a little kid. Going back to 8 years old, I was meditating. And I started taking martial arts at 12 and was introduced to the whole concept of Qi, Ki, Prana at that point in time. And then studied not just, the external martial arts, but going into the internal side and Tai Chi and Qigong especially. And so that's just been a lifelong practice, being certified as a Reiki master teacher, practicing Qigong again for 30-something years, studying quantum healing, polarity therapy, I got licensed as far as a personal trainer goes, and specialized in nutrition, and also as a massage therapist, as well as the energy work. So I've always been about holistic health, everything, mind, body, spirit, and you have to approach it from that angle. So that's just a driving passion, to awaken people to the reality on earth. And then how do you just simply become the very best version of yourself?
You gotta, I guess, kind of know what you don't like, and then you can figure out what you do like and what you want to head for. And we want to help people be, their whole selves, and that takes kind of embracing every aspect of yourself, the good, the bad, and ugly, and just bringing it in. And there's so many things about our bodies that we don't know. When I was a little girl, I always thought that the human body held so many secrets, and that's just a weird thing to think at like 5 years old. I thought that, what am I thinking this for? But something inside of me knew that the human body is just a powerhouse, and interesting things happen on our life journey, and as our bodies grow and change, and we should be involved in every aspect of that and kind of grab it and embrace it. So yeah, here we are.
That old story, you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Again, you could awaken people to the fact that they've been indoctrinated, but you can't unprogram them. They have to do the deprogramming themselves and come to the realization for themselves. And that's really all we could do.
Indeed. Oh, it looks like we're at the end enjoying the animals. So I want you guys to find a happy place, and we're going to do some dings here. And I want to say a huge, huge special thank you to all of our folks on Patreon, all of our folks who pop in and help us out on Ko-Fi, Susan, Terry, KK tonight. You guys, thank you so much. All of your thumbs up, all of your input. We like it all. Bring it all. And we'll address it all, and we'll try to come on as much as possible. So hold tight for some dings. Think some happy thoughts. It's very important for this. You ready? Here we go. Please drink lots of water. You guys have a safe night. Get lots of rest. Source bless and namaste.